Joker? I hardly know her. Hey everyone, it's K-Swope, and I'm going to be taking this mask off for the remainder of this video. Don't worry, I know it's a little more scary than it was with the mask on, but hey, we're going to have a good time. We're ranking all the live-action Jokers, and boy oh boy am I excited for that. We're going to be looking at every Joker, top to bottom, worst to best. What we're going to be doing is we're talking about the Jokers who had some type of substantial live-action role, okay? That's very, very important to note because we are not going to be counting Jokers such as the one that we see for like 2 seconds in Birds of Prey. Sorry, you one fan of Birds of Prey out there, but yeah, that's not counting. These are the major ones that were in TV and movies. So let's waste no more time and talk about the worst Joker, okay? 7th place, I have 7 entries here. The worst Joker, of course, being Jared Leto. Now, if you've watched any YouTube about Joker as a character, period, you've probably come across this take. I'm not breaking any new ground here by saying that Jared Leto's Joker is not good, generally. Now, I can say, I'm not going to play devil's advocate, but I can say that we saw him in 2 films, Suicide Squad, and we saw him in Zack Snyder's Justice League, okay? In Zack Snyder's Justice League, I don't think he's that bad, okay? Like, it's definitely not the best Joker, but the take that he's, the direction he goes in, I guess, with that is passable, and I think that is fine. However, we only get him for a couple of minutes in there in an end credit scene versus, what we kind of know him as, damaged tattoo on his forehead. I don't need to bring that up again. And just the weird tattoo, millennial gangster look, just is really, really bad, poor taste. He's got a grill too, like a top and bottom grill, and it's really, really odd. I love a lot of what Zack Snyder did. I have no idea what he was going for though with this version of Joker. So yeah, not good at all. Jared Leto tried way too hard. He sent people gifts that they definitely did not want. We'll just leave it there. Overall, Jared Leto as a Joker, kind of stinky. I'm glad he's moved on to bigger and brighter projects like Morbius.
It's Morbid time.
Anyways, let us now morb into the 6th best Joker, and that, ladies and gentlemen, being Barry Keoghan. Barry Keoghan, okay, he was the Joker who had a very, very brief appearance in The Batman, okay? And when we say very, very brief, we mean he says a few lines of dialogue, we hear him cackle, we don't actually ever really see his face or anything like that. Now, we did, however, get to see a deleted scene with him in The Batman, okay? Where we get a better glimpse of him, not quite a full picture, but we have some people who are able to put some pictures together of generally what he looks like in his entirety. Now, a few thoughts. For one, the design, awful, and I absolutely hate it, okay? I think it is the worst looking Joker design, probably, than anyone on this list, with the exception of Jared Leto, maybe. Jared Leto was pretty bad, but Barry Keoghan's Joker, not much better, if you ask me. Now, Barry Keoghan might be able to turn in a solid performance when we see his Joker, a little bit more in the future with, more of the Batman sequels and things like that. But for now, not a whole lot to go off of, and that's why he's so low, to be quite honest. For one, just because he looks bad, and for two, there's just not a lot there. There's nothing really to work with. We haven't seen any type of dynamics. We haven't seen much as far as writing and things like that go. So, Barry Keoghan, the second from the bottom, solely because we just don't have a whole lot to go on. Nothing really makes him special yet, but nothing really considers him bad either, okay? So that's why he's kind of where he is. However, somehow, this man is able to pull off bagging Sabrina Carpenter, okay? I don't know how this happens. I don't know how this is a possibility, but dude, teach me your ways, teach me your riz. If I could riz like he can, okay, it'd be a whole different story. I'd be living a whole different life. But I just got to point that out. That is hilarious. That is funny. So I guess good for you, Barry, I guess. 5th place, though, we have someone who I wish I could put a lot higher, but I can't, and that's Joaquin Phoenix. Now, Joaquin Phoenix, Joker, the first one at least, love the movie. It is one of my favorite movies of all time, okay? I love Joker. Joker Folie à Deux was my most painful viewing experience going to the movies last year. It was so bad. And so Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is on here because in the first Joker, they're taking a lot of creative liberties. They give him an origin story. They do all that kind of stuff, right? And I don't think that's a bad thing per se, but he finally becomes the Joker at the very end, okay? And it's exciting. It's very grandiose, a very big thing. Only for the second movie to just undo all of it, and it's just so pathetic. Not to mention, all the stuff that Joker does and accomplishes in this film kind of happened to him on accident, so he's not really actually doing any type of scheming. The only thing he really does that's big is go on the Murray Franklin show and bust a cap in that sucker. His design, I gotta say, though, is unique, okay? I like they went very creative with it. Again, took some creative liberties, but still kept the iconic white face paint with a red smile. They just added a few more details here and there, and I think that's really, really fun. Again, the first Joker film, phenomenal. I cannot recommend it enough. The sequel, don't look at all. Forget it exists, and you'll be happy. But because that sequel exists, I gotta put him down a few pegs. It's just really pathetic how that whole thing played out and ended. And as a Joker, just was not good. The story was not written well at all. You make him a complete wuss, a complete pansy, and yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad in the end. Which, again, Joaquin Phoenix, I think, could pull off a fantastic Joker, just like in anything else, okay? But just these films did not do him any favors. In fourth place, this might be a bit of an upset for you, but actually, Cesar Romero, Joker from the 60s show and movie. Now, Cesar Romero, I put him up so high mainly because when I think of Jokers, this list, basically, I probably should have said this at the beginning. This list, I think, okay, which one is more comic accurate plus my personal enjoyment, right? That's kind of the metric in which I'm grading these. Cesar Romero is very accurate for a Silver Age Joker, which is awesome and great, you know, like pre-Laughing Fish kind of thing. And I think it is great. I mean, he just brings it. He does really good. The biggest problem with Cesar Romero's Joker, though, is that gosh dang mustache, okay? He apparently refused to shave the mustache for the role, so they just painted over it. And it's there. I remember when I was a kid and watching the 60s show for the first time, I was thinking to myself, what? Something's off with the Joker's face. And I realized he has an actual mustache all the way there just painted over. And I'm like, what is this? So that's not great. Other than that, though, Cesar Romero's Joker, I don't have any major complaints about. I mean, he portrays the character perfectly for how he was in the comics at that time, okay? And so I think that is great. The 60s series, I just love, generally speaking. But it's not my favorite. It's not your dark, gritty Batman, but it's just reflecting what the comics were at the time and does a really good job at doing that. And so Cesar Romero's Joker, he gets 2 thumbs up just because, you know, he knew the assignment and he did it pretty well, other than the fact that I didn't trim his mustache. Moving into third place, we have a character that I struggled with this a lot. I struggled with these top 3 places because this person I so badly wanted to put as number 1. The only problem is the material in which this person was the character, I guess is a better way to put it, didn't quite allow him to go all the way. And that's what kind of frustrates me about it. But Cameron Monaghan, if I pronounce his name correctly, the Star Wars guy, the Outcast guy. Yeah, this guy. Anyways, fantastic Joker. He was not necessarily the Joker because they couldn't use the rights for the Joker per se in the show Gotham, but he played Jerome and Jeremiah Valeska, okay? They were 2 twins that basically ended up becoming the Joker. Jerome started this whole Joker madness, and he eventually passed, and he implanted part of his conscience into his brother Jeremiah, who kind of took the torch and was your final Joker at the end, okay? I think the original Jerome Valeska stuff was phenomenal. And if it was just that through the whole show when we saw him, I would say that's the best Joker, straight up. I love it. The Jeremiah stuff, I don't like, to be quite honest. And so because of that and with how it all ended and stuff, just felt kind of, you know, weird and cheap in the Gotham finale. But I think that I would love to see Cameron come back and be the Joker, okay, and really harness that Jerome energy. It was perfect. It was beautiful. I remember watching that for the first time, thinking to myself, he is acting exactly like how I kind of view the Joker just as a concept in my head, and it was amazing. So, got to give so much credit to Cameron. Unfortunately, like I said, the material that was given to him did not let him go the best ways I think he could have gone with the character, and that is very, very unfortunate. So, because of that, he's got to be knocked down a little bit. However, there's a very special, very big place in my heart for Jerome Valeska, okay? Let me tell you. And, so good. So good. Chef's kiss. Wow. So good. Now, I'm not going to lie. I struggled really, really hard with these top 2. Because there's the answer. There's the one that everyone says, oh, this person's the best Joker and stuff. And I just kept scratching in my head, scratching in my mind, racking my brain, thinking to myself, but is he, though? Because there's another person who is just really, really close. And so I just didn't know what to do. So I was like, you know what? I got to go with my gut, and my gut is telling me this. And my gut is telling me exactly what the fanboys want to hear, and that being that second place is Jack Nicholson, okay? Now, if you've watched my channel, you should hopefully know that Batman, the 1989 one, right, is my favorite movie of all time. I love everything about this film, okay? And Jack Nicholson's Joker was easily the best Joker until the number 1 spot, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I still think in a lot of ways he gives that top Joker a big run for its money. I'll tell you why, because this version of the Joker, he's got everything. He's got the mob ties and everything like that. They give him an origin story that's not, you know, really comic accurate. It's somewhat comic accurate, but then again, Joker's comic accurate origin story is also inaccurate. So I mean, not a whole lot of places we can go with that. But he looks fantastic. He uses, you know, the classic Joker gags, but in a very threatening, menacing way, which I think is really, really cool. Which the top Joker, not so much. But he does that, and just the look and everything. It's just everything that I come to expect when I see the Joker. I think it is easily the most comic accurate Joker. And in my head is like, this is peak Joker. Like, I don't think you can get more accurate to the character in terms of look, style, and feel than Jack Nicholson's Joker, right? Which is why I struggled so much with the first and second place. Because in first place, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, Heath Ledger, okay? I mean, we don't need to talk about that much. Again, I'm not breaking any new ground here. Heath Ledger's Joker was phenomenal. I was a really, really big fan of what he did with it. And so the reason I put him here as opposed to this really comic accurate looking Joker that we had with Jack Nicholson is because there's one thing that this Joker captured so much better than Jack Nicholson's Joker, okay? And it was the dichotomy of Batman, his relationship with the Joker, right? So Batman's greatest enemy, of course, is the Joker, right? And the Joker is able to push Batman to places that he has not gone before and just creatively thinks of new ways to push Batman's limits. And that is what we see in The Dark Knight, and we see that done very, very well. Plus, the creative decisions chosen by Christopher Nolan and Heath Ledger for this version of the character are just simply iconic, okay? And they might not be super comic accurate, like the scars and everything like that, the Joker voice, you know, things like the longer hair. However, like, something about it, it just works. And I think it might just work in the world that it's in, too. I think that's all part of it. But either way, I mean, Heath Ledger, he went all out. This was unfortunately his last role, if I'm not mistaken, or at least his last big role. And he actually won an Oscar for it after he passed, which is unfortunate. But either way, it was insane. He really, you can tell, method acting, right? He poured his heart and soul into this role, and it really, really shows. And he pulled off one of the greatest. In fact, I'm going to go as far as to say, I'm going to say this. He pulled off the greatest performance in any comic book film of all time. Okay, straight up, I just said that. I don't regret it. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Heath Ledger Joker, of course, being number one. But hey, that's my list. What did you think? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. By the way, I'm Case Swope. For more content like this, go ahead and check out my channel. Hit that subscribe button. But that's going to wrap things up for me today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I'm Case Swope. Remember that Jesus loves you, and I will see you in the next one.